a little bit of talk about what's probably going to happen in 2021. So somebody asked, what's going on with Alice Asylum? So the answer to that is right now we're putting a lot of effort into this here narrative outline document and the artwork that goes along with it. The goal being to create what we call a design Bible or creative Bible. Is that what we call it? I've just suddenly lost my sense of smell. So anyway, that document is meant to kind of be a cornerstone to the strategy moving forward with Alice Asylum because, frankly, like EA continue to be disinterested in anything happening with this project, and it doesn't really seem to be that we can sway them off of their disinterest. I don't know if that's a function of the corporate world sort of battening down the hatches in reaction to the global pandemic. I've had friends that work at EA that they tell me as much, that every corporation in the world right now is quite freaked out. Nobody really wants to take big bets on certain things. So it's likely that the kind of non-response we're getting from them recently has more to do with there just not being any bandwidth for this kind of thing. Don't know, but what I do think we can do as a strategy is build this design Bible, and when it's complete, it will be a PDF and it could be a physical product that we have in hand. And the goal of it is to have it be so complete and beautiful and amazing that when anyone sees it, they will be compelled to tweet at EA and say, God damn it, let them make this thing. And if you've been following along through all this, I think you understand there's a lot of really beautiful content getting made, a lot of really interesting places we could explore. There's a great story contained in all of this. So I think for the fans, they will be able to see it and they'll say, yes, we want to play this game. And I think for even maybe non-fans, just people that come new to the franchise, they'll see the design Bible, all the story and all the art and everything laid out inside of it, and they'll say, we want this as a game. And I think at a point, EA will be shamed into something.
You'd hope.
I think.
Do they have shame?
I think they do.
Yeah, okay.
So look, that's my strategy. I don't know that that's the best strategy in the world, but I feel like it's really all we have open to us right now. Because in a sense, we are powerless here, except we can create. And so all I can say is that going into 2021, we will continue to create. We'll continue to flesh out this story. We'll continue to draw the art. And then Alex is going to start putting together the actual presentation of the book form of this. And so you could imagine it's sort of like a graphic novel plus. It's a graphic novel. It's got all the story. It's got all the art. Plus, it's got quite a bit talking about there's a boss encounter here, or there's a new skill learned here, but not to the extent that it breaks up the enjoyment of reading it just as a piece of entertainment content, right?
Yeah.
So...
just we're looking what was going on in the chat there for a minute. Desert Phoenix has been gifting subs or something. Thank you for that, whatever it does on Twitch. We still don't know how Twitch works, but it seems popular. So thank you very much for that.
There you go. ECASV665 says, do you think the game will be released next year? No. Very no. Super no. That's not going to happen. Alpha 1412 says, one thing I'm still not clear on, is this a sequel or a prequel? Both. It actually, as a story, manages to be a sequel and a prequel at the same time. It is a prequel that also caps off and finishes the entire story. So, yeah.
There you go.
Will you sell this as a book? I would like us to sell it as a book. I don't know what EA would think about us selling it as a book.
At least not at the beginning. I mean, maybe it's a few years down the line type of thing.
For me, the main thing is to get it done as a book that's in PDF format and then release the PDF to the internets. And that way the internets can see it and go, wow, this is amazing. And then hopefully that reaction starts shaming EA into saying, okay, everybody, we hear you. It's amazing. The whole thing is there. We can't find anything necessarily wrong with it. And so we're going to let this happen. Now, the way EA could let this happen, there's two paths. One is they simply license it to us, and then we go off and we raise our own money, which has always been a possibility. Two, they themselves fund it and they allow us to develop it. Or three, they fund it and they develop it internally, but they involve us creatively somehow. So all of those things should be a possibility. Again, all I know is that in the last couple months of this year, of 2020, they've really gone sort of radio silence on us. And I just think it's a combination of pandemic year plus for corporations like EA, normally starting around Thanksgiving, they everything just stops. And it normally is stopped from a week or two before Thanksgiving all the way through to a week or two after the new year. So my expectation is that sometime in probably February, we might start to get a little bit more contact from them, and we'll continue to work on the design Bible.
All right.
Okay.
There you all go.
So
now you know.
That's the story of Alice Asylum. Someone asked what's going on with Oz. So we were approached by a publisher here in China.
Redacted.
That's called Redacted because they were the first Redacted at the table. And Redacted said they love Alice and they want to find a way to make it possible for us to make Alice, and that they have a background and a history of basically working with companies like EA to get these IPs kind of away from them, and then get them made even when those IP holders are kind of being a little reticent about it. But what they said to us was that the Alice part of the strategy wouldn't come until later, and they really needed for us to present them with a pitch for a studio and have the studio prove its ability to build this kind of thing by first building another game, a smaller game, not Alice. So they said to us that, look, we see that your fans really like when you play around in the world of Oz. Would you please make a presentation that contains a pitch for a new twist on a Wizard of Oz game? Out of that, and with the help of our insane children over on Patreon, we put together a couple of different pitches, and then we finally narrowed that down to something that turned into Oz Adventures. And then Oz Adventures is basically like, you can imagine the Bermuda Triangle, but it's all over the world and it sucks people in and they all end up in Oz and then they have to fight and survive or die. Combined with like elements of Black Mirror and Twilight Zone and Fantasy Island. That's kind of sort of what Oz Adventures is.
The way it's going.
Yeah.
Just a question here from Portal Diver. When the game does go into production, would us loyal Patreon backers get some sort of bonus for being part of Patreon? Would we already qualify for Steam keys if it came to Steam for being part of Patreon? Yes, we've already kind of discussed this.
Yeah, I mean, there's two pieces. Yeah,
I was going to say, at some point in the future, upon release, patrons who pledged in their lifetime a certain amount would get a key for whatever platform they desired. PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, whatever. So yes, the game will be coming to Patreon supporters.
Yeah, and ideally, we also would be allowing patrons to be involved with the development process while the game is in development, meaning that we would continue to employ the thing we call crowd design, and that on some sort of schedule, there would be beta or whatever you want to call them, early access releases of the game in development so that patrons could access that and then provide feedback in real time. So that is something, by the way, that Redacted, the ones that originally asked us to present all of this stuff, they were really keen on, and they are really keen on. And so they are saying to us that, yeah, we like what you've been doing with crowd design. We like the idea that your fans are involved from the beginning. That invites people to be aware of the product long before you start doing traditional marketing. And so they kind of see that, like I do, as potentially a new model for how game development's done. And, you know, like what we're doing right now, streaming all this stuff out, is a part of that model. We bring the audience in, they're aware of the game that's being made, and they also get to have a say as the game's being made, as opposed to you get an announcement that a game's getting made, 2 years go by, you hear nothing, and then wham, it's released, and nobody has had any clue of what's happening for the 2 years prior to release.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good way of doing it. Like Redacted says, you know, maybe this is the future.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, so an interesting thing happened along the way of working on Oz Adventures and the Alice Asylum pitch, which is what you see on screen right now, is like one of the pages from that. Not that. That's a hedgehog. If I keep going to the right, oh yeah, flying monkey. Hey, 2 pigs. You guys stop that. Okay. So an interesting thing happened along the way where we were pitching Mysterious Studios and we were pitching Oz Adventures, and that is that Redacted 2 entered the arena. And Redacted 2 is a Hollywood film production company with a very long history of making very big movies and TV shows. When I went and looked at their catalog and the work that their founder and CEO has done over the years, not only in film and television, but also in the world of music, this guy has got an amazing track record. The company has got an amazing track record, or companies that he's founded and run. But the one that we're talking to now about the television series has got an amazing track record. So they approached us. They said, hey, we caught your live streams where you were talking about this Oz Adventures thing, and we want to turn that into a television show. So it kind of goes to further cement the concept that this sort of new model of live streaming, doing creative with the crowd, can do really interesting things, because we essentially landed a TV deal off the back of what we were doing on Patreon, what we were doing with crowd design, and then streaming that stuff here on Twitch and uploading that stuff to YouTube. We did a virtual pitch and landed a signed agreement with this company. I signed the agreement last week, and that agreement means that the company in question, Redacted 2, can now take this pitch out and package it up, attach directors and attach writers and attach talent, and then take that to, and look, I know some of you don't like some of the names I'm about to say here. None of this in terms of who's going to pick it up is set in stone, but they will take it to places like Amazon and Netflix and HBO and Hulu and what are some of the other ones?
Disney Plus
and HBO Max and
Stars.
I don't know. And just look, I don't have a dog in the race when it comes to any of these platforms. We don't have any of that stuff over here. So we don't get to hate on it the way you guys that somehow engage with it differently hate on it. So I don't know. All I know is that Oz Adventures is very likely going to get turned into a TV show somewhere. And I'm very happy about that. And I'm very happy about how crowd design and Patreon and streaming has turned into a new way of developing a concept and pitching a concept and getting a concept landed for a television deal. So
Octo Chickens is asking if I'm going to Hollywood. Is the fame going to go to my head?
Yeah.
So
a couple of things here. Deeps to the Peeps says, will this be Wes Craven all over again? Deeps to the Peeps, Wes Craven died. And if you're referring to the fact that he was attached to the Alice project 20 years ago, and that nothing ever went forward on that, there was a lot more going on in the background behind the Wes Craven attachment to the Alice project and why it never went anywhere. And none of the players or problems that were involved at that time are involved with what we've done on Oz. I mean, if you've been watching, you'll see that Oz is unencumbered. That's one of the reasons why Redacted 1 asked us to make a new thing, is because it comes out the gate without all the problems that exist with an IP like Alice, where you've got all these different people at the table who claim various forms of ownership and control. So I don't think we expect that this is going to have anywhere near the kind of problems that the Alice film project has had over the years, and trust me, it's had a lot. The Alice film project stuff has been a real nightmare. So I don't think that Oz is going to be like that. But hey, who knows? I've seen people commenting on the Patreon post where we talked about the thing. Somebody was like, "Oh no, not Hollywood!" Rah!
Oh, that one.
And I was like, "What do you? Okay, well, we'll just fire everybody and shut everything down, and not sign deals." I mean, I don't know what to do. No.
Can Alice make a cameo in Oz?
No.
Full stop. Next question.
Yeah. Octo Chicken says, if it's not on Chibi, I won't be watching
It's not going to be, is it?
Well, Chibi doesn't exist
Yeah,
anymore.
Quibi got shut down because it
Chibi.
was too awesome.
Chibi.
Quibi, isn't it? Stands for Quick Bits.
Chibi.
Quibi.
Stands for Chibi.
Stands for Cheap Bits.
All right. Now, there was another kind of facet of all this I think I wanted to explain, that we have a bunch of things kind of in the air. And in some future version of 2021, it all could fall on the ground and fail.
No!
Redacted 1, the publisher here in China, could say, nah, we're not interested, goodbye. And Redacted 2, the Hollywood producers, could say, we couldn't get it picked up, goodbye. And then where are we left? Well, we're left with still building the design Bible. So as far as I know right now, we shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say it this way. I shouldn't say no one can stop us. Because something could stop us. But assuming no one stops us, we will finish the design Bible, and then we will try to leverage that into making something happen for Alice Asylum. For me, that's sort of the ultimate backup plan when it comes to projects in development and getting something done. Now, there's also 2 variations on the Redacteds. If Redacted 1, Chinese publisher, falls off the radar, but Redacted 2 gets a TV series made, then we can draft off the success of the TV series deal to get like an Alice getting into production or get the Oz game into production. A lot of these companies that we would go pitch the Oz Adventures TV series to also have gaming funds. So that could still lead to a studio getting founded and an Oz Adventures game getting made and then an Alice game getting made, right? Vice versa, if the Hollywood thing doesn't work out, but the Chinese publisher does, that's still a path to building a studio, building Oz, and then building Alice Asylum. So
it's all intertwined.
Yeah, so this is why you got to keep a bunch of different pokers in the fire. Why do people put pokers in fires?
For poking.
Why do they need to be in a fire, though? I don't
Hot
understand.
poking. You don't want to poke something that's cold.
I don't want to just poke you. I'd like to poke you.
I think I actually know the answer to this based on a book that I read. Because if they're using pokers as torture devices, you want it to cauterize the wound on the poking.
Yeah.
If it doesn't burn it enough, they'll bleed out.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a self-cauterizing torture device. This is true. So,
but that doesn't help if you're just poking wood to keep warm. You're not torturing the wood. So
you don't know that. Have you ever heard when you poke wood with a hot poker, it goes
maybe that could be the question.
It doesn't like
Do
it.
you torture wood